Hi everybody, we are going to go over the text implications graphic organizer. This graphic organizer is going to tie together theme, point of view, and author's purpose and show you how interconnected those three aspects of literature are. So you can see that the center of the graphic organizer asks, what are the implications? Which really means, how do they all work together? How do they relate? And we are going to be completing this for the story 7th grade. So if that title isn't typed into your document yet, please go ahead and do that. The first component that I'm going to talk about relates to point of view, and that is the narrator's perspective, identifying first, second, or third person point of view. Now, you should have just completed a pear deck that went over the point of view for the story 7th grade. So that is third person omniscient, so you can go ahead and highlight that. And we know that the two characters thinking that we were able to have insights into were Victor and Mr. Bueller. And in that pear deck, you should have had a chance to identify the text from a couple different paragraphs that got inside the thinking of each of those characters. So when this video is over, you'll need to come back to this box and add a sentence that shows Victor's thinking or a sentence that shows Mr. Bueller's thinking. Or you could pause right now and take care of that. Okay, for the remaining portions of the graphic organizer, you can see that there are some bullet points just hanging out on the edges of these different parts, and you are going to fill something in for each of those bullet points. We are going to start with theme, and by the end of this video, you should be able to recognize how closely related theme and author's position and author's purpose actually are. So looking at the possible theme roots, again, in the pear deck, you should have come up with your top 3. I'm going to focus in on love and bravery. And when I take 2 theme roots, I can sometimes put those together to create my theme. So when I think about the story 7th grade and the lesson that I learned that I could apply to my life, the lesson that you learned, you could apply to your life, anybody could apply it to their life. Related to love and bravery, I'm going to say sometimes people need to be brave in order to experience love. Oops, I think I have a typo in there. And of course, you can resize this text box, make it work for you and what you are typing in. So I've taken those 2 theme roots, love and bravery, and I've worked them into one theme. It's a sentence. It doesn't mention the story 7th grade. It's not about Victor and Teresa. It's not about French or learning French or any of their classes. It's very general, generic, and overarching and could be applied to anybody's life. Okay, we're just going to do one theme together, and I'll show you how that can help you with author's purpose and or author's position and author's purpose, and then you will come back and complete the rest of them on your own. So let's move on to author's position. And for this one, you've got to think about, well, who is the audience for this text? Who was 7th grade? Who was the story actually intended for, right? Was it intended for somebody my age or your parents' age? Was it intended for somebody in elementary school? Well, the title of this one kind of gives it away. It's intended for somebody your age, right? We could maybe say that it's intended for a young adult audiences, middle school readers, something like that. So keep that in the back of your mind as we think about the author's purpose, because we are going to have to make a guess as to what Gary Soto thinks. What does he believe? What are his opinions? And we're going to come back to love and bravery because that's what we wrote our theme about. So let's see. If Gary Soto took the time to write a story that has to do with love and bravery, what might he believe to be true about those things? So I'm going to use one of these prompts here. The author I'm just going to use the author thinks that, and this is where I'm going to kind of tie in the audience of the young adults. The author thinks that young adults should take more, can you think of a word that I could use next? Thinks that young adults should take more, go ahead and resize that text box if needed. What word might work? The author thinks that young adults should take more, well, if I'm going up with bravery, how about this? Should take more risks. Okay, the author thinks that young adults should take more risks. Okay, that kind of gets at the bravery piece. What's going to get at the love piece? Take more risks when it comes to, can you think of a word that I could end with that kind of gets at that idea of love? Take more risks when it comes to maybe relationships. Okay, and that's a guess. We don't know for sure what Gary Soto was thinking, but it does make sense based on the topic of the story that he chose to write and the intended audience being people of the young adult age. It makes sense that he might. So this is just a guess. We are trying to figure out what he thinks. So you should be able to see that this theme and this author's position are closely related. Okay, now let's wrap up with the author's purpose. We're going to continue with those theme roots of love and bravery. We're going to think about the theme that we already wrote and the author's position that we already wrote. An author's purpose is getting at what is the ultimate goal and what was the author trying to accomplish in writing the text. And you can see that there are some prompts up here. Some of them are even pretty similar to author's position because they're interconnected, okay? The implications of them are that they are very similar. And so for this one, I'm going to use this prompt. The author wants the reader, it's just catching up with me there, the reader to appreciate. Okay, now think about it. Gary Soto chose to write a story on this topic. And the reason that we tie point of view in here is going to be really obvious right now. If you think about it, not only did he write the story about Victor, Teresa, and 7th grade, but he included the teacher, Mr. Bueller, and he included Mr. Bueller's thinking. And if you remember that paragraph that we looked at on the Pear Deck, Mr. Bueller flashed back. There's a word we haven't talked about yet. You might know that one. Mr. Bueller flashed back to his youth and to his experiences, which really makes it even more clear that Gary Soto does have an ultimate goal of wanting to teach his reader about something related to these young love and relationships. So I'm going to say the author wants the reader to appreciate opportunities for, how would you end that? Appreciating the opportunity, that's kind of getting at that bravery piece, taking the risk, right? Looking for the opportunity. Opportunities for, I just mentioned this a minute ago, young love. And that gets at that love piece. And so because Gary Soto wrote a story on this topic, he included multiple characters that had thoughts on this topic. It's pretty apparent that that could be his purpose, or what he was trying to accomplish was to get his readers to think about that. Okay, so now you should be able to see how closely related theme, author's position, and author's purpose are. They don't sound identical, but they certainly use some of the same words and they follow along some of those same theme roots that we chose. If you have any questions on completing this, feel free to reach out to me and I will provide you with some additional support. Okay, bye guys.